Good afternoon again. Gary Rappaport, one of the directors of the Ardsley Historical Society. And it's my great pleasure to introduce our esteemed speaker today, John Vorperian, who I think is a living legend in the world of sports journalism. He'll be sharing his insights on the lives and legacies of two of baseball's most iconic figures, Jackie Robinson and Branch Rickey. As some of you may know, John is a cable TV host, historian, writer, attorney, and senior staffer at the Jackie Robinson Project. And John, am I right that that project has now just launched that museum down at...
That's the foundation. No, the project is a separate entity.
Right.
We're really focused on educating people about history.
So anyway, since 2002, John has hosted thousands of programs, mostly speaking about the intersection of sports and society. The program is called Beyond the Game. There's about 6,000 episodes you can see on the White Plains Cable Television link. John is an active member of the Professional Football Researchers Association and the Society of American Baseball Research. He's written numerous articles for print and online sports publications, contributing editor to 14 books, and a senior writer for BoxScoreNews.com, which is quite an interesting site if you're a sports fan. Also, he's the immediate past president of the White Plains Historical Society. John holds a bachelor's from American University in Washington, D.C., a MPA and JD degrees from Pace University here in White Plains, and a certificate in sports marketing from New York University. And most importantly, John sat 4 rows behind me in our 7th grade social studies class. So about our topic, Robinson and Rickey, the two men who broke baseball's 6 decades-long ban on blacks playing in Major League Baseball. Jackie Robinson was a trailblazer, breaking the color barrier in Major League Baseball in 1947 and paving the way for countless other African-American athletes. He endured racism, discrimination, and harassment with grace and dignity, and using his talent and determination to earn his place as one of the greatest players of his time. Robinson's story is a testament to the power of perseverance, courage, and resilience in the face of adversity. Branch Rickey was the visionary executive who saw in Robinson not just a talented player, but a man who could help change the course of history. It was Rickey who made the bold decision to sign Robinson to the Brooklyn Dodgers and who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure he would be given a fair chance to succeed. Notably, as I'm sure we'll learn today, Rickey's great experiment was decades in the making. Our speaker today is an expert in the lives and accomplishments of these two remarkable men. Through the stories, he will explore the challenges they faced, the impact they made, and the lessons we can learn from their example. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming John Vorperian.
Thanks for that warm welcome, Gary, and you got a good memory, that's right. Dick Orleano's social studies class. If I could only have been 1 seat behind you, I probably would have gotten better grades. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for allowing me to come and fellowship with you with regards to history. And in fact, I would have been here sooner. However, as you may know, today is the annual meeting for the White Plains Historical Society and annual business meeting and the like. So I got here as soon as I could. I just wish to mention the sports historian aspect of my activities. People ask me, what's a sports historian? And I tend to say, well, it's like a cultural historian. Okay, what's a cultural historian? I look at it as being a detective. And I also have an approach where let's look at things globally. Let's take in as much information to piece the puzzle of what happened in the past so we don't repeat it in the future. I'm a firm believer, when I have taught as an adjunct, I'm a firm believer that you teach history the way it really happened. Even the painful parts. The poet Maya Angelou wrote, "History, despite its retching pain, cannot be unlived, but if faced with courage, need not be lived again." So, I'm not surprised as a sports historian that our generation, whether it be folks like us or youngsters behind us, don't really know about Jackie Robinson and the impact he had on our society. Here's the stat which I think as members of the Ardsley Historical Society you should keep in mind, that 5 out of 6 high school seniors will never take a history course ever again. 5 out of 6. So what you learn in school, what you don't learn in school, or what you may learn in school, you take with you. So that's where the Jackie Robinson Project comes in, and we go out and we talk with students, but we also talk with teachers and administrators. With regards to the painful parts, I'm not shocked that we don't teach enough about Jackie's story. It's an admission that is made, but you know, most students aren't taught about the treatment of Native Americans in American history, nor the incarceration of Japanese Americans during World War II, or about slavery of the African American experience prior to the 1950s, or the role of the Ku Klux Klan in American politics, not just in the Deep South, but in states like Oregon, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Indiana, or about anti-Semitism in the United States, to name just a few glaring omissions in the educational process. So today, I just want to touch upon this partnership between Jackie Robinson and Branch Rickey. You know, some historians say that there are 3 significant events in American history in the 20th century which address civil rights. One is the Plessy v. Ferguson separate but equal doctrine that was overturned by the Brown versus Board of Education decision in 1954, outlawing racial segregation in public schools. The second, they may say, is President Truman's 1948 executive order desegregating the United States Army. And the third was Jackie Robinson's integration of Major League Baseball. In the opinion of sports historians like myself, I would put Robinson's at the top of the list. If not for any other reason, but he came first. He was a year before the Army desegregated. He was 7 years before Brown, and almost a decade before Americans heard about Rosa Parks and some young minister from Atlanta with the initials of MLK. Robinson was out there alone, but I'll tell you a little bit about how this partnership was set up. And what I mean by set up is, it's amazing when you look at the biography of Jackie Robinson and you look at the life story of Branch Rickey, there are a lot of crisscrossing and matching up. And I'll just sum it up with several factors here, which were mother, military, education, a vision of a long-term vision of what society should be, justice, almost a spirituality for both. And let's begin. Here's the bullet point. Jackie Robinson is the black star that breaks baseball's color line. And oh yeah, Branch Rickey. He's the business exec who worked with Robinson and signed him, and he helped foster this integration of baseball. And that's all our students know. I'd like to just point out another aspect. As I said, call it bullet points. I think another aspect of being a cultural historian is you got to break the box. And what do I mean by that? We leave Branch Rickey in the business administrator's box. Jackie Robinson is tagged as just a baseball player. Let me give you an example from history of someone else that is in a box. Helen Keller. She is viewed as a crusader of overcoming physical disabilities. Oh, and yes, she had a teacher by the name of Annie Sullivan. But she overcame that. And that's all we know, or the society knows. But she did that at age 19. What did she do the rest of her life? She was an ardent feminist. She was a social critic. She was a proponent of getting rid of child labor. She was also the first white woman to give financial support to the Alabama NAACP. And yet, we don't hear anything about it. So tonight, or excuse me, this afternoon, I'd like to delve a little bit further regarding the partnership between Robinson and Rickey. All right, with regards to Jackie, or Jack Roosevelt Robinson, he was born in January 31st, 1919 in Cairo, Georgia. It's spelled like Cairo. He is the son, a grandson of a slave, the son of a sharecropper, and he is also in a family with a single parent, his mother, 3 older brothers, and a sister. In 1919, his mom, Mally, decides to take the family out of Georgia and move to Pasadena, California. Just in a nutshell, that wasn't any great advancement because at that point in time, there was the possibility that a black American could have possibly a middle-class life in Pasadena. However, by 1930, that changes with the Great Migration of more blacks moving into California, and it is very clear that there's redlining, there's segregation, there is public pool. The public pool is a great example in the metro Los Angeles area. Blacks could only use it one day of the week, Wednesdays, to go swimming. And what would the municipalities do? They would drain the pool after it was used by blacks. With regards to Branch, he grew up in what is Little California, Ohio, better known as Stockdale, in December 20th, 1881. He's a middle son of Jacob Frank Rickey and Emily Rickey. And the family is Free Will Baptist. However, Branch, named Wesley Branch Rickey, really affiliates with his mom, who still retains her Methodist roots and is influenced that is his vision with regards to life and spirituality. I want to fast forward to both of them with regards to their education. And also, you know what? I'll just try and articulate their thinkings. Because Robinson's quote, and you can see it if you go to Citi Field, a life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives. Again, the long vision, understanding beyond self the impact one can have on community. And with Rickey, I pulled this. Rickey, again, going back to his Methodism, true believer. Someday I'm going to have to stand before God, and if he asks me why I didn't let that Robinson fellow play ball, I don't think saying because of the color of his skin would be a good enough answer. Both are athletes, by the way. Robinson is honored in the Hall of Fame in '62. On the first ballot he gets in. Rickey goes in. Unfortunately, he passes in 1965, but he goes into Cooperstown posthumously in 1967 as an executive. But we'll see that later on their college careers, how both of them were athletes, and that has another important point with regards to integration or being on the best, or being with the best players possible on the team. To just give an understanding as to the magnitude of Robinson stepping on the field in Brooklyn in 1947, we got to understand the importance baseball had at this time period. Essentially, here are the 3 major sports through the 1920s and the 1950s. Baseball is clearly the national pastime, followed by, I've heard historians go back and forth whether who's in the number 2 slot or the number 3 slot, but boxing and horse racing. Baseball is a national pastime as there are only 2 leagues in the majors, the American League and the National League. There are 8 teams in each, a lot of symmetry there, but you know what? None of these major league teams are in the South or West, and the game season is only between April and October. What is done the rest of the time? Baseball fans and Americans are talking about the game. Who's up, who's down, who's going to get traded. The other key thing about the bigs, well, the players are all one race. This is a little bit of an idea as to the media impact. 1950, we have over 1,700 daily newspapers in the USA, and that gives you some circulation ideas. 1940, I was able to isolate that at that point in time, there were about 250 black newspapers operating in the US. That is what people are going to. That's the social media, so to speak. That's the Facebook. Or as I tell students, that's where your ESPN Sports Center is. Okay, guys? The other avenue is radio. You know, FDR did give his fireside chats. Radio is a key media outlet. But then in 1950, you know, 3 years after Robinson breaks the color line, this shows something that's very interesting about this device. 1950, radio's at 96%. And there are only about 5 million households that got a TV. And then you see the numbers there with regards to how quickly Americans are embracing the electric mirror. Yeah, I got to get one of those. You know, wife wants to see this. I want to catch bowling. You know, I want to see this stuff. I want to see Uncle Milty. That's an amazing stat as to how quickly it just engulfs the American mind that, yeah, I got to have a TV. So the national pastime is now beamed into our living rooms. Jumping back, and it still is from 1920, 1950, it's not until more recently, and I mean, that's 40 years ago, I was going to say 1980, but truly, baseball owners, their main way of getting money is by ticket sales, the gate. So you want to keep your fans happy. You don't want to break taboos. By the way, where do players like, well, that look like Robinson, where are they? There must be some. And sure enough, the Negro Leagues are in operation roughly as a major league for African Americans from 1920 up until 1949. Once Robinson comes onto the scene and other owners realize that, you know what, we can't pass up on this talent pool, we have to hire them. By the way, I mentioned the gate. Where do you think a number of these teams were playing, like the Kansas City Monarchs or the Chicago Americans or the Philadelphia Stars, the New York Black Yankees? Where else? At the major league parks. When the major league team was away, they would use those fields but pay a fee to the major league owners. So segregation may have been a good thing for folks. Let's just keep it going. All right, as I mentioned, Jackie was a true athlete at UCLA. He's the only Bruin with 4 letters in 4 different sports. And anyone like to take a guess as to what his best sport was while he was in UCLA or at UCLA?
Track.
That's a good possibility, but actually it wasn't. He had a brother who was a track star, but I'll say that for later. Football, indeed it was. And actually, one of the times I was giving this talk, I haven't had the chance to check the stats, but it would have been around 2016, and I checked the UCLA stats. He still was, as of 2012, that's the safest way to say it, he was still the top yards per carry runner in football. The other thing about the UCLA Bruins is they were an integrated squad. That's Woody Strode on the left, Robinson in the center, and Kenny Washington, the best player in college football in 1939, who did not get drafted in the NFL. It's not until 1946 that the Los Angeles Rams hire Washington, but that's a whole nother talk as to why they waited so long. Strode went on to an acting career. Also on this team was Mayor Tom Bradley, who became police chief of Los Angeles, as well as the first black mayor of LA. So this team had a reputation of being a good team, and the fact that they were integrated was another consideration with regards to Rickey going with with Robinson. His first pro baseball team was with the Kansas City Monarchs. He was there for 5 months, and Clyde Suitforth ID'd him as the guy that Rickey should go with for integrating, for the noble experiment, integrating Major League Ball. Just want to jump over to Rickey. He attended Ohio Wesleyan University, and he played baseball, football, and basketball. In fact, Rickey in 1902 made the mistake of playing on a semi-pro baseball team and lost his eligibility to participate further in college athletics. Nonetheless, he came back with OWU as the baseball team's manager. The incident that impressed upon Rickey, which I know many of you are probably aware of, is his catcher, Charles Thomas, on a trip to Indiana to play at the University of Notre Dame. The team stopped off at a hotel. Hotel clerk refuses to permit Thomas to be checked in. Rickey makes a deal with the manager that Thomas would stay in Rickey's room, and Rickey came back into the room and saw Thomas visibly upset, scratching away at his skin, saying, "It's my skin, it's my skin. If I didn't have this color skin, I'd be like everybody else. I'd be accepted." And that impacted Rickey with his religious convictions, that he would justify this incident through baseball. Because Rickey also viewed baseball as a sacred place. It was a game that taught young boys sportsmanship, and was the key to good citizenship. It is the sacred game, and this is just Rickey's viewpoint, which thankfully worked out. He goes on to law school, and again, can't get away from the diamond game. He's a manager of the University of Michigan baseball team. He does make it to the pros, but I mentioned about his mother. He did promise his mother that he would adhere to not playing on the Sabbath, nor would he go to a ballpark on the Sabbath, on Sunday. So he's a backup catcher. He has a weak throwing arm, but yet he still plays with the Browns, who today are the Baltimore Orioles, and the New York Highlanders, who today are the Yankees. He does go into the military, and it does participate in World War I, 1918, in a chemical divisions unit. Does go back to baseball with regards to managing the St. Louis Browns, St. Louis Cardinals, but he doesn't really connect with his players. He does get the Browns and does have some minor moves, I would say, if you look at the standings and win-loss records. Okay, it's some improvement, but he doesn't really turn on his players, and the best example of that is with the 1925 Cardinals. The same exact player roster is there in 1926. Rickey's out as a manager, and that team essentially captures the World Series. Whether it was sanctimonious, whether it was the religion, whether it was the verbiage, he didn't connect as a manager. Where does he connect? Still stays with the Cardinals, but he's in the front office, and this is his fort. He is the prototype modern business executive manager. Why do I say that? Because Rickey foresees, you know what? He is credited with the batting helmet, the batting cages, the sliding pits. Also, he foresees that, you know what? Let's grab as much talent as we can. Here's a great example. May I see the movie Moneyball? Yeah, sabermetrics. Rickey's there out front. He hires Turkin and Alan Roth, two Canadians, statisticians, and begins coming up with statistics such as on-base percentages, I guess the forerunner of war. I would have to grab some of my Sabre friends to explain some of this stuff, but it is a way of judging talent. As I mentioned, player safety, or as some authors of Rickey's life, club investment, because you don't want to have your players hurt, you know. Somebody sitting on the bench in a cast isn't helping. And as I mentioned, the farm system. Rickey, again, believing that baseball is almost like a spiritual experience. Well, let's put a minor league club out in Anchorage, Alaska. Let's put a minor league club in Minneapolis. Let's put a minor league. And what the Cardinals do is they have numerous teams. And Commissioner Pearsall Landis, who you may know is segregationist, but Landis does make a decision. Landis came in with the Black Sox scandal. He threw out players who had associated with gamblers. Stern disciplinarian. Well, he did knock down Rickey because he had no proof of this, but Rickey had put Cardinal minor league clubs in the same league. So in other words, he could actually influence the pennant race of a minor league standings. So with the Cedar Rapids decision, you can look it up, Landis declared 73 Cardinal prospects as free agents. So much for the reserve clause and some other good stuff that baseball has, but Landis did that. It was sort of a shot over the bow to make Rickey aware that don't do that. All right. I think another quote we should focus on with Rickey, and I'll just leave it up there for a moment. Problems are the price you pay for progress. And Rickey always looking for talent, signing everybody, throwing them on minor league clubs, making sure that his opponents don't have that player. Where's the next pool? The next pool is, why don't we have some black players? This isn't just for justice, but Rickey is known among baseball associates and owners and players alike as El Cheapo. He's a sly fox. I got to talk with Ralph Branca about contract negotiations with Rickey. In fact, I do have a quote from Bill Veeck about, and I'll just paraphrase it, but Bill Veeck talked about, you know, if I'm ever locked in a room with Rickey and he's talking, I'm probably going to come out of there. He's going to come out with my best players, and I'm going to come out with two guys I've never heard of. So Rickey is a good negotiator, a good business executive. And Jackie Robinson appreciates the skill of administrators and managers. One of the things that Robinson agitated for in his entire life with regards to baseball is wanting field managers, black field managers. And it's not until 1975 that baseball hired its first black manager. Anybody like to take a guess as the last name of the manager who got hired?
Frank Robinson.
Frank Robinson. No relation to Jackie, but the fact is that Frank Robinson gets hired by the Cleveland Indians, and by the way, his contract that year was not great because the Indians hired him as a player manager. So the great meeting in 1945, it happens in Brooklyn. Rickey, being the sly fox that he was, indicates that he's going to be an owner of a Negro League team, the Brown Dodgers. And that's the cover that permits his scouts to go in and look at the Negro Leagues, who are we going to pick up, and Robinson is confronted with regards to testing his mettle. They go back and forth, and it's made clear that you are going to be harassed. They're going to be calling you names, and I just want to make sure that you don't lose it, Robinson, is what Rickey is telling him. No, and that's another thing. Nobody's with us. No owners, because the owners do come up with a committee report as they catch wind as to what's Rickey's real game. 15 out of the 16 owners are saying no to integration. Rickey never got that report, by the way. It sort of like disappeared. Afraid you're looking for a Negro who's afraid to fight back? No, I'm looking for a ball player who's got the guts not to fight back. And again, the spirituality as to Rickey, and this is this constant tug you see in Rickey's life between spirituality and being a great business executive. I cannot face my God much longer knowing that his black creatures are held separate and distinct from his white creatures in the game that has given me all that I can call my own. Robinson goes on to the International League. He's up in Montreal. Montreal is not an easy time. There is only one southern city up there, and yet there was a lot of stuff that went on with regards to Robinson in the minor leagues. Syracuse, that was an incident where fans threw a black cat on the field, screaming out to Robinson, "Hey, Jackie, your cousin's happy to see you." And Robinson's response was that he actually hit a triple, turned around and told the fans, "Oh, I guess my cousin's happy now." And emphasis with regards to you're out there alone. And it's not just the opposition team, the fans, umpires. This is the 1947 team photo. That is the official photo. It is right at the cusp of spring training. Now, that's as big as I could get it. I didn't have Blake Rappaport to help me out and try and get it more humongous. But as you can see, first row, far right, or second from the right, is Jackie. Leo DeRocher, who probably would have been ornery manager to have in Robinson's corner, gets suspended for his ties with organized crime, George Raft, and all that. It's a whole nother story, but Leo is suspended, and Rickey turns to Bert Schotten to manage the club. Schotten is in the second row, dead center, and that was part of the deal because his wife, Bert's wife, did not want him being involved in baseball again. The agreement was that he would not don a uniform so he could keep his word with his wife. I'm not wearing a baseball uniform. Now, is anybody spotted or anyone aware of who is giving the signal as to their feelings about Robinson being on the team? I ask you to take a look at the top row and just go across and see who might be giving a sign. Actually, it is an outfielder, Dixie Walker. Walker's one of the Dodgers that absolutely positively did not want Robinson on the team. And Rickey met that resistance by trading Walker to Pittsburgh. All right, you mentioned the first day. And also, this is something else with regards to Rickey. He makes a deal in '48 with the Vero Beach, the old naval facility there. He makes it into Dodgertown because now the Brooklyn team can go south and not have to deal with the hassles per se, other than when they have to go out and play other teams with regards to all the wacky segregationist laws that are on the books in the Sunshine State. And we see this over and over again, and I think this is another, reason why the two of them were compadres. Rickey is clearly a man of action, and Robinson is too, because this is another quote from Jackie. Life is not a spectator sport. If you're going to spend your whole life in the grandstand just watching what goes on, in my opinion, you're wasting your life. And Rickey does not do that. I want to sum up with regards to Rickey's baseball career. He does end up, and he doesn't lose that general managership in the sense of he is bought out and released or removed. Depends on where you grew up in Brooklyn as to how you view how he was pushed out of being with the Dodgers. But Rickey goes on to the Pittsburgh Pirates as their general manager. He doesn't ever get the Pirates out of the second division per se. And in fact, one of his players, Ralph Kiner, leads the league in home runs one season, goes in to meet with Rickey for a renew of his contract, and Rickey just absolutely positively rejects the Rays offer, or Rays demand, stating to Kiner, we came in last with you, we can come in last without you. One thing though, again, and this is Rickey's acumen to baseball, to recognize who is a good prospect. Because something else, Rickey was notorious for trading his players. He was able to trade aging players for young ones. And something else that Roger Kahn points out in his book, Rickey and Robinson, Rickey was getting a percentage for contracts of players. So trades and the like, he was getting a cut, so to speak. Nothing nefarious, it was there. It was out in the open. In fact, this it did create the hard feelings between the Cardinal ownership and Rickey, because I guess when you look at it and you see your general manager making more than you think he should, that could also cause an exit door for the exits for a general manager. His talent, he found Roberto Clemente in the Dodger organization, uses the Rule 5 draft to get Roberto. It doesn't generate, this is in the 1950s, doesn't really generate anything until we see the 1960s. Rickey is out of the Pirates organization, but Clemente goes on to a Hall of Fame career as a ball player. So I hope I've given an overview, and it is an overview. So I'd like to open it up to questions, thoughts, what I may have missed if there are Saberites out there, baseball historians, or just whatever. Please, yes, sir, please.
From what I heard, I maybe it was stated that there was an African American that played in the late 1800s, and I don't know if you call this the modern baseball, modern era of baseball.
Very good question. Moses Fleetwood Walker, and he did play in that time period. I'm focusing on the modern era, which is essentially after World War II. Because, we were to fight, the whole purpose of World War II was to destroy the Nazis and totalitarianism. And how can we call upon our American men and women to go and fight to smash Nazism when they come back home and we have first-class citizens and second-class citizens. So speaking of first-class citizenship, I brought along Mike Long's editorship of Jackie's letters, and I'd like to read to you a writing, Robinson to Branch Rickey. It's a letter he sent to Rickey in November of 1950. There's no date on the letter, but it is in that time period. It's like, "Dear Mr. Rickey, I've been intending to write for about a month now, and it seems that finding the right words come hard, as I will attempt at this time to put them down. It is certainly tough on everyone in Brooklyn to have you leave the organization, but to me it's much worse. And I don't mind saying we, my family, hate to see you go, but realize that baseball is like that, and anything can happen. It has been the finest experience I've had being associated with you, and I want to thank you very much for all you have meant, not only to me and my family, but to the entire country, and particularly the members of our race. I am glad for your sake that I have had a small part to do with the success of your efforts. I must admit it was your excellent guidance that enabled me to do it. Regardless of what happens to me in the future, it all can be placed on what you have done, and believe me, I appreciate it. I don't know the circumstances that caused you to sell, but I am smart enough to know that a person does not sell a growing thing unless there's some misunderstanding someplace. I do want to wish you and your family the very best, and sincerely hope that you're able to bring Pittsburgh just what you did to Brooklyn and St. Louis. I hope to end my playing days in Brooklyn, and it means so very much, but I have to go any place. I hope it can be with you. Sincerely yours, Jackie. Now, Rickey does reply in December 31st, 1950, back to Jack. Neither your writing and sending the letter nor its comments gave me very much surprise. I have observed that you have learned long ago that most things, good or bad, just don't happen to people by accident. Your thoughtfulness in the field of so-called unimportant things has doubtlessly led to much of your success. Anyhow, the fact that you wrote the letter, and particularly the things you said in it, not only meant very much to me, and was, as I have said, deeply appreciated, but also revealed why you have come to so much deserved distinction. I hope the day will come when it will be entirely possible, as it is entirely right, that you can be considered for administrative work in baseball, particularly in the direction of field management. I do not know of any player in the game today who could, in my judgment, manage a major league club better than yourself. I recently made this statement in the presence of several writers in the course of various remarks, but I have looked in vain for the reporting of the statement. That's only part of the letter. But sincerely yours, Branch Rickey. So it's clearly a love between these two men, but they saw the bigger picture. Well, you both raise your hands at the same time. I'll go with you, Gary.
Thank you so much, John. You have really sparked my personal interest. I was very unaware of this sort of sports cultural history aspect of things, and you've just touched on things, and I'm sure we could go on for hours. But going back to your initial statement about you have to look at history the way it really is. So I want to bring up in my research and preparation a couple of things. Robinson and the Paul Robinson incident. Rickey being accused, you could weigh in on the issue of, for lack of a better word, poaching a great talent from the Negro Leagues, and accused of doing that so and not perhaps compensating the Negro League managers or players, perhaps. So I'd like you to address those two issues, and maybe you could just tell us, what did Jackie Robinson, of course, he only played for a decade or so, had amazing stats, batted .311, and brought such excitement to the game. But what did he do in lieu of, like you said, what impact did he have afterwards? Because as you said, we only put him in this box. Jackie Robinson, integrated baseball, then what?
Okay. All right, let me see if I can remember those three questions. Yeah, one per person. Well, after baseball, he goes on to, he had already made an arrangement with William Black, the head of Chalkful and Nuts, for an executive position. The Dodgers were going to trade him or to the New York Giants, of all places, and that's the rivalry, the New York Giants against the the Dodgers. But as you we're all aware, those folks they jumped to the West Coast, but that rivalry still exists. Robinson takes the job with Chalkful and Nuts and deals with the labor force there, pushing again for a more diverse workforce. He creates a bank in Harlem, the Freedom National Bank, which is to provide loans to people that are being summarily rejected at other banks, which would say those rejections are arbitrary and capricious. He also founded a construction firm which built affordable housing, of which another 42 actually purchased the property in Yonkers that was built by Robinson's construction company. Was a guest on my show, Mo Vaughn, who played for the Red Sox and then the New York Mets, but one of the number 42s as well. You also asked about
The incident with
Robeson.
and
That was for the House Un-American Activities, and forgive me, I'll just put it in a nutshell, and it's not, it deserves more time, but I guess Robinson later on, upon reflection and years later, regrets that participation for that House committee, and just like, but this is something else about Robinson that you have to admire. People, it's very tough to say, you know what, maybe I was wrong. And we see in Robinson's life, he's not afraid to go back and reassess some of the things that he did. For example, he did support Richard Nixon in the 1960 presidential election. He did come to regret that decision because he felt that the Republicans were not strong enough on civil rights. Later on, once Goldwater captures the nomination in '64, Robinson is working for Nelson Rockefeller at the time, and was one of 6 national campaign coordinators for Rocky for President. And then there was another question that you asked.
Rickey and the allegations.
Oh, sure. Oh, there's no allegation. No, this is as I call him, the Sly Fox. Yeah, he did not He did bring in Negro League players. I mean, after Robinson, you look at the Dodger roster. There's Don Newcomb, there's Roy Campanella, Joe Black. And yeah, if they were affiliated with the Negro League team, there was no compensation made to the Negro League team. Effa Manley, the owner of the Newark Eagles, who is in the Hall of Fame, felt that Rickey was a thief, and that's something else. In '47, the other black player that comes into the majors is Larry Doby with Bill Veck's Cleveland Indians, but yet in that contract, Beck did compensate the Negro League team for pulling Doby away off that squad. So that, I think I've answered. I know Peter had a hand up. I saw that. Yes.
Yeah, John, was Rickey, did he consider other ball players
before he decided that Robinson was the better player, both ability-wise and temperament-wise, to bring up.
Yes, yes. He wanted to bring on board, and again, because he was able to look at stats, he was able to just have this incredible knack of being able to know this this is the real deal. Forgive me, the gentleman's name is Garcia. His surname, I can't think of his first name. Cuban, black Cuban. That was the player. That was the player because his arm was unbelievable. Strong throwing arm. Rickey wanted him. However, through connections, Rickey had it checked out, and Garcia just had way too many extracurricular activities going on, known to the Cuban police, and I'll just leave it at that. He may have been fantastic on the baseball field, but he was not the guy to bring and sort of like be the key for being a successful candidate to make this little experiment work. Would have set back a lot of things. Yes. I thought I saw a hand go up, but no. Okay. Yes.
It's funny that Gary mentioned Paul Robeson, because if you saw the movie Jackie Robinson story from the 50s, the person that Ruby Dee played his wife, and they're buried about 200 feet apart at the Plumcliff Cemetery.
Oh.
Yeah.
And with Ozzie Davis,
Yeah.
Ruby Dee Davis.
Yes.
About 200
New Rochelle, folks. Yes.
The other thing I want to mention is, I had my brother come with me today. The reason why, well, I'll tell you, he's golfed with Yogi Berra. He's been playfully punched in the face by Muhammad Ali, but he also has a ball with him today that was signed by Jackie Robinson.
Wow.
Now, there's a little twist to the ball, but I'll let him explain it.
Okay.
My uncle, who lived in this area. John Floyd-
This is not very dangerous. I'm letting some stranger have the microphone. Never do this in television.
John Floyd, hold on, I already done. I never have.
Well, for the
Oh, okay.
recorded,
Can I come up there too?
you know what I'll do.
I'm unaccustomed to public speaking. Now, my uncle John Plan worked at Rickey. He was discovered there was an anomaly with Jackie's account in Hartsdale. And basically what happened is he went to his boss, and the boss said, well, I don't know. He turned around and they said, well, figure out what it is. And they ended up, I don't know which came first, I was very young. They called in the FBI, or they contacted Jackie, and someone was trying to ruin Jackie by stealing his money. And Jackie Robinson, at the end of it, his money was safe. He wrote to my uncle, best wishes to John Palermo, Jackie Robinson. And my uncle, not caring about autographs or anything, he wrote down to me and my brother, he took ink eradicator. You people know what ink eradicator is. And he wiped out his name, but he left the J for John to James and Kenneth Jackie Robinson. And we've had this ball early 60s. So that's our story, we're sticking to it.
I'm going to take a look at it. Thank you for sharing it, Jim. Okay, I will do.
I have your own card.
Okay. Well, actually, I'm glad you shared this because at the United States Post Office down in the United States Postal Museum in Washington, D.C., there is an exhibit, and you maybe Google it. I don't know if it was a temporary exhibit or a permanent exhibit, but with regards to autographs and player autographs that are being forged and sold as sports memorabilia. And Robinson, Clemente, Casey Stengel, I think even Yogi they had examples out there. Here's real, here's fake. And postal authorities have been instrumental in capturing these criminals. So the exhibit is the baseball angle, but again, it gets back to the point of how you teach history or teach something. It shows, hey, our U.S. postal inspectors are on top of their game. No pun intended. So, yes.
So, John, was he safe or was he out? We have, if you want, we could show the video.
I'm familiar with it because I had, the first black Yankee, Elson Howard, and I do work for the county government, and at the time, a good friend of mine who was with the New York Post, was the sports editor, Ralph Wimbish, he was Elson Howard's first roommate, because when Howard was picked up by the Yankees and spring training was in Florida, segregation. So Howard stayed at Dr. Wimbish's home. Ralph was a youngster then, an 8-year-old, and Dr. Wimbish was the head of the local chapter of the NAACP, so agitated for integration and the like. But Ralph wrote a book with Arlene Howard about Elston's experiences, and had them come to the county office building for a ceremony, and Yogi was there, as well as Carmen. And Yogi and Rachel, whenever they saw one another, it would never be good day, never be good morning. Yogi would immediately say, "He's out." And Rachel would say, "He's safe." I've seen it from various angles, and the brothers Zamoff, Richard Zamoff, who's a former professor at George Washington University, sociology professor, and the creator of the Jackie Robinson Project. Barry is a educator in Florida. They're both retired now, living in the Sunshine State. They grew up in the Bronx, but yet they were Brooklyn Dodger fans. I haven't figured that one out. They did meet Jackie Robinson. They were little leaguers who went to Happy Felton. They were named in Happy Felton's Knothole game. Barry got to shake Jackie's hand. I've looked at this video, and I had a discussion with him about it. I think he was out. However, a friend of mine who is a baseball, I guess the best way to describe it is baseball photography investigator. There are images of baseball throughout the years, and it's like, well, wait a minute, who is that in the picture? And he can identify the team, who it is, and all that. There is an image of Yogi standing in front of the plate, which would be catcher's interference if this still image is correct. So as one of my good friends said, went on the location shoot down at the Yogi Berra Museum. Yogi has always said no to me. He would never do the show, and he kept to that word. I did interview Dale Berra, and of course one of my good buddies said to me, "Hey, why don't you just go and ask Dale? No, better yet, if Yogi's in the side, why don't you ask him whether it was catcher's interference?" I was like, "Yeah, they're going to throw me out of Montclair before I even get my camera rolling." Anything else? Any other questions, thoughts? Well, I'll have a little game for you. I don't know, you all are history buffs and supporters of history. I'm just curious, this is another thing you can cook up, we cook it up and debate on the game. There are 4 institutions of higher learning that have produced a U.S. president and a Super Bowl winning quarterback. So I would ask, anybody know what the 4 colleges or universities are? Oh, you want me to repeat the question?
I was going to guess, would Navy be one?
Oh, well, I was going to ask you to hold off on, if you can come up with the 4, or want to say what the 4 are, I'll take even 3 or even 2. But yeah, and it's still it's a sort of a quirky thing. You know, I was trying to think of a question, and there's prizes involved. That's right, prizes. Woo! Yes. So anyway, what? No, with the ball, you know. Yes, Navy is one of them. Because you had Jimmy Carter, president, and Roger Staubach of the Dallas Cowboys. So that's one. This was popped to me. I got to interview Warner Wolf, and this was popped to me by him. He was a sportscaster whose catchphrase was "Give me a break." So,
And they have another one.
yeah. Okay. We'll
Did Gerald Ford go to Michigan?
yes.
Yeah.
So then Gerald Ford and Tom Brady.
Tom Brady, that's it. Okay, this is called collective consciousness. Yes, this is it. Yeah. So that's yeah. The one it's nearly impossible. There's one school that you would nobody gets it, and in fact I didn't get it. But the 3 out of the 4 that folks immediately can identify would be Stanford, Herbert Hoover, Jim Plunkett of the Oakland Raiders, as we mentioned, U.S. Naval Academy, Carter, and Staubach, and Michigan, Ford, and Brady. And then there's Miami, Ohio.
Ben Roethlisberger?
Ben Roethlisberger, that's right. Now the U.S. president. He had a beard. That'll give you a hint. He had a beard. And Miami of Ohio should be beards were what, 18? We had a number of bearded presidents. So to say Ulysses S. Grant, but he went to West Point. But that's a good guess. No, it's Benjamin Harrison. Harrison, excuse me, Benjamin Harrison, yeah. So yeah, if you want to stump your friends, that's the.
Charles, there is there is a...
Oh well, here. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Yeah.
There we go. Running away from you?
No. Oh yeah.
Red Sox.
Oh yeah. No. Lovely. I mentioned White Plains. Your choice.
Oh, nice.
You were instrumental.
I got less than 50%.
No, that's good enough. At least you had something. So, whichever.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And, anybody want to take a guess as the last major league team that integrated?
Boston Red Sox.
Yeah. Okay, you've got a book too.
Humpsy Green.
Humpsy Green. His brother was Dallas Green, who played for the Dallas Cowboys. And there's a funny story about Humpsy pumping a little too much alcohol. And the other player was Gene Conley of the Red Sox, a little too much alcohol at the airport. And the two of them made an entire scene demanding to be flown to Israel after a hard-fought game against the Yankees. Yes, it happened here in New York.
So, John, one other thing. So, I was recently at a game, and I did. It struck me because in Britain, when this was coming up, the pitcher was of Japanese origin, and there was a slew of Latino, for lack of a better term, Latin or Hispanic players. But I think there has been some coverage in the press and some concern that the legacy that we've been discussing today still reverberates today in the black community. And there has been can you comment on this, possibly a noticeable drop-off of interest in the black community in baseball, perhaps basketball. I just learned that LeBron James is the first billionaire athlete. So have you heard about this?
I've seen it.
What? So
I've
what
seen
is
it.
it?
That's something else. When Rickey was with Pittsburgh,
he really realized, you know what, what's the next talent? Who was the Latino player? So you see Rickey sending his scouts south, so to speak, with regards to that. But I know that baseball is trying to address that issue. I don't know if they'll be successful because having worked in a college athletic department and having talked to young people coming in, my view is that basketball is like, you know, it's the quickest way to make money. Let me get to the pro game in basketball. So I think a lot of the athletes that would have been playing baseball, they've just channeled their energies to a different sport, a different area. Willie Mays would have been a great halfback for football. So it doesn't surprise me.
Basketball's a lot less investment. You need a basket and a hoop.
Exactly. The city game. That's what it is. So yeah. Well, thank you very much. John, thank you.
Definitely a very informative presentation. And as a token of our appreciation, we have a gift for you.
Oh, wow. Oh, man.
Local
Thank you.
artist.
Oh, this is wonderful. Wow. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you all again.